Stone was going to take care of us. I mean, yeah, we've got the little heater set up. And it's really not even that cold. It's like a
it feels
nice
good.
42 degrees. The sun is out.
Yeah.
So come celebrate. I mean, we are here leading up to Utah versus BYU, obviously, and having a little tailgate party. We're going to be here all day.
We'll be here all day.
Leading up to the 6 p.m. combined BYU-Utah pregame show. So it's just going to be a blast all day long. So if you're planning on coming up here, come a little early. Stop by, say hi. We just got word that we've got BYU and Utah-themed donuts. We've got coffee out here. So come say hi.
If you want to go, if you're driving around near Roland Hall and you're thinking about going to 7-Eleven or something and getting a coffee, don't go there.
Yeah, don't pay for one. Come grab one.
Come out and grab one here with us. Come say hi. Come hang out.
It's a beautiful day. It's going to be a beautiful game, Alex. We have been so excited all week. Can't wait to get into it. So let's just jump right in. What do you think the biggest storyline of this game is?
Well, it has to be the quarterback position, right, for Utah. Who's going to be the starting quarterback for the Utah Utes tonight as they take on the undefeated number 9 BYU?
Yeah, I think I'd agree with you there. That's been Utah's storyline all season, going back to literally, what was that, the second game of the year?
Yeah. And, well, I mean, if you count last year, too, it's been
Yeah, counting all of last year as well. So really just this quarterback situation, not to sound like a broken record. I mean, it's something we talk about every week. But in case you missed it, against Houston, Isaac Wilson was, I guess you could say, benched, and they brought Brandon Rose in off the bench. And then following that game, Kyle Whittingham said that they were going to have a bit of a competition to see who the starting quarterback would be today, and it has not been announced. We're not going to know until kickoff, so it's up to us to speculate, and that's the fun part of our job. We get to kind of talk about each one. But Alex, is there one quarterback that you're kind of leaning towards? Who do you think we're going to see tonight for the Utes?
I think, and I believe, it's time to hashtag water the rose, Christian.
Okay.
Hashtag water the rose. No, I heard it in passing. I wish I could take credit for it, but yes, it's time to. And look, this isn't a knock to Isaac, because I do think Isaac has shown signs and glimpses of the potential that he has. But right now, I think Utah's biggest question and biggest concern is the lack of a spark on offense. We haven't seen really anything besides maybe a couple of deep passes to Money Parks, who Money Parks, by the way, is now out for the year. And so I think this is just an opportunity to try to find a spark. You gave, whatever the plan is for Kyle Whittingham in this offense, you kind of had the 2 weeks to prep, considering you had the bye week last week. And so I do think it's time to see, maybe give Brandon Rose a little bit of a chance to see what he can do, because I've been thinking about this all week, Christian. And I'm going to tie it into the Utah Jazz. Will Hardy in his post game was talking about the young players, and he mentioned that not all playing time is good playing time.
Yeah.
Is effective playing time. You can't just play to play, right? And so I think this is an opportunity for Isaac to maybe take a back seat and just continue developing. Because at what point does it become a detriment to Isaac Wilson's development, these poor performances from the offense?
Man, if only they would have been doing this all year, right? And that was my initial thought. Again, I bring this up every week, going back to when they announced Isaac Wilson was going to be the backup. It never made sense to me. And Kyle Whittingham kind of mentioned earlier this week, the plan was not for Isaac Wilson to play this early in the season, right? They didn't expect him to take the team over once Cam Rising essentially got hurt versus Baylor. And so in my mind, that's what the backup quarterback is. If you don't want to give the reins to him that early because he's not ready yet, then don't name him the backup. But that's in the past. I think it's interesting that you want to see Brandon Rose, and I guess I lean the same way. Isaac Wilson he's struggled, especially the last couple of weeks. It seems like it's got worse and worse.
Right.
And they just need a spark. They need something different. They need somebody who can go in and really just control the offense. They're not looking for big plays. You're not going to beat BYU by throwing 75-yard bombs. They don't really have that capability anyways, especially after losing Money Parks like you mentioned. They just need somebody who can go in and execute and really just be a game manager. And that's what Utah has really always had at quarterback anyways. The quarterback is not going to be the best player on the Utah team, hardly ever. They just need somebody who can go in, kind of be that point guard style quarterback, distribute, let the playmakers make the plays, let the defense hold you down. I mean, this defense is crazy, right? The defense is one of the best in the Big 12 and has kept them in games, and unfortunately they have not been able to put points together on offense, but that's what they're looking for, is somebody who can come in and really just not lose the game for you, which is kind of the lowest bar that can be set, but they haven't had that in recent weeks.
It is kind of wild that, and I mean, it's kind of what we expect from this Utah defense, but it is kind of wild that the Utes have had the opportunity to stay in games thanks to that defense. And I mean, we talked about it last year with this Utah team. How far can the Utah defense take them? Now we're kind of seeing a similar situation. However, we're getting good play from the defense. There are some opportunities and some plays that I think that could be done better, but they're still getting the job done. It's just now on the offense to get the job done.
Yeah. I mean, it's the rivalry game, right? This game has not been played in 3 years. They should have some juice coming into this. And hopefully making the change presumably making the change. We don't know, and that's the thing. We're not going to know until the first snaps. We did have Steve Bartle on Jake and Ben. He's our wonderful Utah insider for KSLSports.com. Jake and Ben asked Steve who he thinks is going to start at quarterback, and he said Brandon Rose as well. I think all signs kind of point to that in the sense that why would you have a quarterback battle if you were planning to start Isaac Wilson still? I think that's a sign, right?
It's good to hear that Steve is also on the hashtag Water the Rose train and kind of feels the same way that we're feeling. And also, I found it curious and I found it interesting the fact that when we had the opportunity for media availability this week, it wasn't Isaac who stepped up and talked to the press and talked to the media. It was Brandon Rose, which Brandon Rose hasn't really talked to the media at all.
I'd say that's pretty telling.
Yeah.
Right? Why would you have Brandon Rose come in and talk?
Unless it's an elaborate scheme to make us think that it's going to be Brandon.
It could be a smoke screen, and if that's what Kyle Whittingham is doing, I mean, I wouldn't put it that's not out of the realm of possibility. I mean,
can't put it past him.
Yeah. I did have this thought, and, earlier I talked about kind of why would you have a quarterback battle if you were still planning on starting Isaac Wilson. And then I thought, this is a kid that he had to start way earlier than he wanted to, than the team wanted him to, and he's had his confidence hurt and damaged so much over the last 2 months. So maybe you manufacture some confidence for Isaac Wilson by introducing this quarterback battle, making him win the starting job back, and get a little win under his shoulder so he can, again, just build confidence coming into this game. That's the only positive of a quarterback battle I'd say could happen from Isaac Wilson's perspective. But then on the flip side, if you lose that quarterback battle, that just damages your confidence that much more.
Yeah, not good. I agree with you there. I mean, we talked about it a little bit last week. We hope that this quarterback battle that the Utes are going through right now, getting ready for this BYU game, it's hopefully an opportunity for iron to sharpen iron, right? Get Brandon Rose out there, get Isaac Wilson out there, and hopefully push them to just do better.
Be better. Yeah, that's what they need. They need the offense to step up as a whole, and that starts with the quarterback. And it's kind of crazy the ripple effect that better quarterback play will have on this offense. But, I mean, as soon as you get some resemblance of a passing game going, that really just helps open things up everywhere else, especially, for Mekhi Bernard and the running game.
Yes.
Because we've seen over the last couple of weeks, they're seeing so many stacked boxes.
Yes.
And Mekhi Bernard, who had a really good season up until a couple of weeks ago, you started seeing a lot of, 8, 9, 10-man boxes because, truthfully, the passing game has not been a threat at all. And, again, Money Parks out for the season. He was one of their leading receivers alongside Brant Keithy and Dorian Singer. You know who was fourth on the team in receiving yards?
Who was fourth?
I think it was Dijon Stanley.
Oh, wow.
And most of his receiving yards came in game one against SU, where he had, was it, 140 yards or something like that?
That's not good.
So, really just outside of, again, Parks, Keithy, and Singer, they have not been able to do anything in the passing game.
I think that's going to be key. You have to, tonight against BYU, you have to get this passing game going, whatever it takes. You got to get some kind of semblance, something going, some positives going in the passing game. Because you mentioned it, Christian, the last 2 weeks, teams have been stacking the box and have kind of been taking the game away from Mekhi Bernard. And once you take Bernard out of the game, you're just not moving the ball.
Yeah.
Mekhi Bernard against Arizona State, 21 carries for 129 yards and had the touchdown. You look at the TCU game, 13 carries for 55 yards, and that was because TCU did a good job of stacking the box and stopping the run game. You look at the Houston game, 14 carries for 51 yards, did have a touchdown in that one, but still you're looking at 51 when you had the 129 against Arizona State. And again, because Houston's stacking the box, so you have to make the defenses respect your passing game, and then that way you open up Mekhi Bernard in that run game.
And it's fair to assume we're going to see BYU's defense come out and do the same thing. Obviously, they're going to dare the Utes to beat them with the pass game, especially with you've either got Isaac Wilson coming in and starting, who's been struggling, or you've got Brandon Rose making his first career start. So, yeah, the Cougars are going to be daring Utah to air the ball out. And we'll see. I am really interested in how the pass game looks because just looking at these receiving stats from the year going back, Dorian Singer, 540 yards. Brant Keithy, 482. Money Parks, 294. And then you've got Dijon Stanley, 166 receiving yards on 7 catches. Again, about 140 of those were in week 1 against SU. Other than that, Mekhi Bernard is next. He has 95 yards receiving on the season. Then you've got Caleb Lohner, the tight end, 3 catches for 51 yards. We haven't seen Caleb Lohner since that Baylor game as well, right? Or was it week 3?
Might have seen him against Utah State.
I think it was Utah State, right?
Yes.
Where he caught that.
Yes.
Either way, he has 3 catches, 3 touchdowns, but only 51 yards on the season. Micah Pittman, 50 yards receiving on the season, and not going to get too much into it, but there are some rumors going around online that I'm not sure if he's with the team anymore. I'm not really sure what's going on there, but he has not really had an impact on the season, so maybe we'll see somebody like Damian Alford, who we have not seen at all. Maybe it's up to him to step up and make some plays, but basically you're down Money Parks. Sounds like they're down Micah Pittman. You're left with Dorian Singer and Brant Keithy to continue to carry the load by themselves.
Which, in all reality, those aren't necessarily terrible options, right? They're both really good at making plays.
They are their 2 best players.
Yes.
But you've got to get the ball to them.
There you go. That's exactly where I was going with that. They're more than capable of making a big play. They're more than capable of being top receivers. But you have to continue to build that passing game because the ball's just not getting. Brant Keithy had a couple of good catches against Houston. Dorian Singer had a couple of good catches too in the past games, but you got to get something going in that pass game and really give an opportunity for Singer and Brant Keithy to make some plays if you're going to want to have a chance at beating BYU tonight.
Breaking news, Alex. Do you know who the celebrity guest pickers were on College Game Day today?
It was Livy Dunn, wasn't it?
Livy Dunn and Paul Skeens.
Oh, man.
They all picked BYU to win, except for Kirk Herbstreit. Herbie picked Utah.
Okay.
But everybody else on the Game Day panel, including Livy Dunn and Paul Skeens, combining their pick, they all picked BYU.
Herbie just saved BYU, I think. Because every time everybody picks them, they lose.
Yeah.
The teams end up losing, and so I think Herbie just saved BYU.
That's really – is Game Day at LSU?
It's at LSU.
Okay.
Yes.
That makes sense why they'd have Livy Dunn then. But just got the KSL Sports app notification Mitch Harper sent a tweet out, so turn your notifications on. It's a really, really busy day. Alex, this is such a fun rivalry, obviously. I mean, we've got BYU, 45 minutes on a busy day down the road. And these two teams have so many connections. You've got coaches on one team that played for the other team. You've got coaches on one team that coached previously for the other team. And I think that's another storyline that has got a lot of run coming into this game, is just all the connections on the two staffs. And Kyle Whittingham and Kalani Sitake both talked about that at length throughout the week. So I want to hear from Kyle Whittingham first. We're going to see what Kyle Whittingham had to say on so many kind of ex-Utah members now at BYU.
I think it works both ways, because a lot of what they're doing is stuff that we do. And so, and I don't know how many guys I was trying to count them up the other day. I think I counted 8, 9, or 10 guys that are on their staff in some capacity that were on our staff previously. And so I guess we trained them well, those guys. Yeah.
Love it.
Love little joke at the end there, too.
I guess we trained them well. They are, 9-0?
Yeah.
They did train them well. Good job, Whit.
No, it's awesome. I think that just adds a little bit more to the rivalry, right? You have guys who, like Aaron Roderick, who were with the University of Utah a couple years ago, and then he ends up making the move down to BYU. Now he's that BYU offensive coordinator, and I think, obviously there's a good relationship there and a good connection there, but at the same time, like, hey, you want to motivates you a little bit extra to want to get that win, right? Get a win against your former team.
Yeah, and we haven't seen this game in 3 years. So it's kind of, so much has changed in college football over the last 3 years, and these two teams have not really been able to meet and hash it out on the field like we are so used to seeing them do. But you're right, now, since the last time this game is played, there's so much crossover between the two staffs, and you're going to get that when it's a local, regional rivalry. Like I said, less than an hour apart the two schools are. So Jay Hill is another coach that he played and coached at Utah. And it's just, I can't wait to see, after the game, what it's like on the field when the coaches go up and meet and talk to each other, because they're all close.
Yes.
And I don't know how much talking there has been throughout the week, but you just know that there has to be some sort of interaction. Maybe there's a group chat. I'm just trying to imagine how funny that would be. A group chat of all the BYU and Utah coaches together and just talking smack leading up to the game. I'm excited to see it.
That'd be awesome. I think if they had the group chat, that'd be really cool.
Another clip that I really want to hear, Kalani Sitake, he talked about his relationship with Kyle Whittingham and everything that Whit has done for him as a coach. And I thought this was a really heartwarming clip, because obviously Kalani Sitake is just such a genuine and nice person, and I've never met him, but you can get that listening to anything that he says. I mean, he just shows so much love and respect for literally everybody. And so I really do like this clip from Sitake talking about his relationship with Kyle Whittingham.
Great mentor, great friend, and a great competitor. He is a football guy. He's tough and he holds his guys accountable, but there's a good side to him that I've seen, and I think everybody's seen that. He cares about his players and he cares about his staff, and I've been a benefactor of that, and I've been able to be a close friend of his. And listen, he wants to win this game just as much as I do, but I'm honored to be his friend, and after we're done with the game, we'll go back to being friends again. But he's taught me that to do this the right way, you need to make sure that you focus on the boys first. That's what he's doing, and that's what I'm trying to do as head coach.
That's awesome, right? You have that love and that animosity, or not animosity, but the love between the two sides, and of course Kalani learned from Whittingham, and I feel like a lot of what Kalani wants to do and has done at BYU kind of replicates a little bit of what he learned at Utah, right? And so it's amazing to see the love that these two guys have for each other, and I love the fact that they pointed out that during this week, they're not friends. They'll go back to being friends after the game, but right now it's getting our guys right and making sure that our guys are in the best position to beat you. Yeah, so much love and respect on both sides for the other team, and it is funny just how the passion
goes from love to a really intense rivalry during this week, and then after the game, you go back to really respecting the other program. Alex, Utah won 9 games in a row going back from 2010 to 2021, and then of course in 2021 BYU beat Utah. That was the last time these two teams played. So currently, BYU won the last game. Do you think that BYU is going to start a winning streak? Or do you think that Utah is going to get a win at home today?
Ooh, man, that's a tough one. I'm still really on the fence about this game because we've said it before on the show. When it comes to this rivalry and when it comes to this game, when it comes to Utah BYU, anything that you thought you knew, you throw it out the window.
And we are seeing that with, just an example, ESPN, and I don't bet whatever, but like ESPN has the spread for this game, BYU by only 2.5 points.
Right.
This is a 9-0 team versus the Utes who have lost four in a row, and they only have one conference win. So that right there just shows you, like you said, nothing up to this point matters. You throw it all out the window.
Throw it all out the window because this is a game. Utah could be 0-8 coming into this one, right? Yeah. But it doesn't matter because they're going to show up for this game. This is you, especially the guys who are on that 21 roster. You think about guys like Bernard, who has come out and has said, in during the week that loss stung, and they don't want to ever feel that ever again. They want revenge. They want to win here at home against BYU, and so anything that you thought you knew about these two sides, you throw it out the window because this is a whole nother ball game. This is a whole nother scenario where these guys are hyped up and these guys are ready for this rivalry.
And it is an interesting kind of wrinkle that this game is being played at Rice-Eccles Stadium tonight, right? It's Utah that has been struggling. It's Utah that, I don't want to say needs this win more, but they're the wounded dog right now, right? And everybody knows that's the most dangerous team to play. And everybody knows that Rice-Eccles Stadium can be such a dangerous environment to play at. And who else knows that, Alex? Jake Retzloff. This is what Jake Retzloff, quarterback for BYU, had to say about playing tonight's game at Rice-Eccles Stadium.
It's going to be fun. We know that place is super hostile, especially when we go up there. And so we're super excited for it. It's obviously going to be another test. It's going to be another tough game. And especially up there, it gets a little tougher.
It does get a little tougher. And I know that Utah has not been the same this year at home, but traditionally, night game at Rice-Eccles Stadium, that's not where you want to be as an away team.
Especially not if you're the boys in blue.
No.
Especially if you are BYU. Yes, when you come into Rice-Eccles Stadium, it's a whole different environment, especially at those night games. And like you mentioned, Christian, it hasn't been the best season for Utah. I think they've lost more home games this year than they have in the last 2 years combined. But it's a whole different environment. It's a whole different thing because, of course, BYU's coming over, and the fan base plays a really big part in igniting the rivalry. And so I think we're going to see a lot of that and feel a lot of that tonight at Rice-Eccles Stadium.
The last time that BYU came to Rice-Eccles Stadium and beat Utah was all the way back in 2006. BYU was ranked number 21 at the time. They beat Utah 33-31. Coming up later in the show, we're going to hear Curtis Brown. He was BYU's running back at the time. Had a stellar career at BYU. He was on that Cougar team that went into Rice-Eccles Stadium and beat the Utes. Again, that is the last time that BYU has beat Utah here in Salt Lake. So we're going to get to Curtis Brown probably around 11:30, but we got to take a break right now. We'll continue this BYU-Utah conversation on the other side. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's the Saturday Show. We are live on location here at Roland Hall on Guardsman Way, just down the road from Rice-Eccles Stadium. We are here for the all-day tailgate party. Stop by, say hi, grab a donut. Alex and I are here until 12. Our combined Ute and Cougar pregame show will begin at 6. We've got tons of coverage throughout the day. So if you're out here tailgating, come by, grab some candy, grab a donut, say hi, whatever. We've got cornhole set up. You can come beat Stone in a game of cornhole. I bet Stone's pretty good at cornhole. If I had to take a guess.
Yes, if I had to take a guess, I would say he looks like a pretty competitive cornhole player.
Yeah, he probably gets lots of practice too. I think this is a traveling cornhole set that they probably bring to a lot of these remotes, and Stone is probably one of the best cornhole players I know.
He just laughs.
He's on the phone and he just heard his name.
That's awesome.
Oh man, what a fun day, Alex. And people are starting to trickle in as everybody is preparing to tailgate all day. I mean, it's a night game, and that's the best part about a night game is you have all day to just party and get ready. So again, come say hi. We want to meet you.
Come say hi. Come grab coffee. And give us your hot takes.
Give us your hot takes. Give us your score prediction.
Yeah, there you go.
Tell us your favorite memories of this rivalry game. We know you have them. So, again, thanks for making us part of your morning. And as you come on up to Rice-Eccles Stadium, come see us. Alex, I want to talk about some of the smack talk that went down during this week because obviously it's a rivalry week. And, you know, these two teams don't like each other. That's plain and simple. We talked about how much the coaches respect one another, but the fans and the players, you know, they want to put it to the other team. And this is one of the bigger storylines of the week. Jalen Glover was made available on Monday, and he talked to the media, and he had some interesting smack talk that kind of went viral. So this is what Jalen Glover had to say on this game.
Excuse my language, but it's BYU, man. I've never been a part of the Cold War, but I'm excited now. Looking for the opportunity to be out there to go fight and battle with the guys and, you know, keep our streak going, man. We got to go beat them boys down south, and I'm excited to be a part of it.
I think I'm more concerned that he called it the Cold War.
I was going to say, rule number one, if you talk smack, make sure you get the name of the rivalry game right.
Yeah.
It's not the Cold War, Jalen. That is something completely different and a lot more serious. But honestly, we've heard takes all week on the zone, right?
Yes.
Listening to all of the shows, everybody kind of had their own take on it. Here's my take. I honestly don't mind it. And I know a lot of people kind of took issue with the language, with the expletive that he used. And I'm going to be honest with you, Alex. I think it's fun. I think that's, you know, part of those memorable quotes that lead up to the game. If Utah wins, they're going to remember Jalen Glover saying that. If BYU wins, they're going to remember Jalen Glover saying that.
Absolutely.
And it's going to give them ammo and rub it in Utah's face. Like, hey, remember your running back that's carried the ball 4 times this year? Remember when he said this for no reason? Like, that's what makes these rivalry games fun. And you need that. And maybe Jalen Glover crossed the line using that specific word. Who cares? I think it's fun.
It adds a little bit more. It just adds more to the rivalry.
Yeah.
It adds a little more gasoline to the fire. I guess kudos to him for coming out and apologizing after the video went viral.
He did come out and apologize, yeah.
He came out and apologized, tweeted it, apologized for saying those things about BYU. But, as you mentioned, like, there's so many iconic lines from both sides of the rivalry, right? Max Hall saying, "I hate their fans." What did he say? Something like that. Like, you got Max Hall, you got Tyler Huntley and the "they so poo poo" line.
Yeah,
like iconic. You're always going to remember those.
Yeah,
and so you need. I feel like you need those type of moments, and you need those kinds of those situations just to keep adding fire to the rivalry.
Well, especially with this rivalry being resurrected.
Yeah.
It needs to be resurrected because this is a game that has not been played in 3 years. And even before that, I know BYU won the most recent matchup. But basically, once BYU went independent and Utah was in the Pac-12, this game had not been competitive. I mean, Utah won 9 games in a row. And then BYU won in 2021. But again, that's the last time that this game was played. So a lot of these players were not part of either team the last time they faced off. A lot of these players don't know anything about the rivalry. So you do need that. You do need, you know, the spark's got to come from somewhere. The fans obviously know the history of this rivalry, but I am encouraged seeing these players kind of taking upon themselves and manufacturing sort of a a topic, a talking point throughout the week. And that just gives Coach Sataki and the Cougar staff some bulletin material saying, hey, look at these guys. Look at what they're saying about us. Go out and put it to them.
Get them fired up. Get them fired up. And I think, again, when you have in the world of NIL and transfers, and you're going to have a lot of turnover on teams, you're going to have a lot of players coming in and out, and so you can't let the rivalry die as the team moves on, right? Most of these guys are only here for 4 years, 5 at some, with the red shirts year, and then
12
obviously
if you're Cam Rising.
And then you have the transfers who leave, and you have the transfers who come in who are here for shorter periods of time, and so you got to have not only the education of the rivalry and teaching these guys what this rivalry means and what this is for both sides, but you got to have moments like that to just keep the fire going. You can't let the rivalry kind of diminish with all these players, with the turnover on the rosters.
Right. We mentioned the change that college football has went through over the past 3 years since this game was played. It is hard to make the players care about this, but there are a few players on both teams that were on the rosters the last time these two teams played, Mekhi Bernard being one for Utah. So this is what Mekhi Bernard had to say earlier in the week about what this game means to him.
Man, it means a lot. I mean, when you think about the rivalry and, all the years that we won in a row and stuff like that, and you come in and, first year I'm actually playing and we actually lose one, it hurts, that I'm part of that team that actually lost that game. And so, it means a lot to me. I don't want to feel like that ever again. I want to be on the side of the record where, we're winning. We're not in the loss column, so that's how I feel.
So it is interesting to have that, like most of the players in this Ute locker room, they don't know what it was like, but then you have Mekhi Bernard there kind of sitting in the corner saying, hey, guys, like this feeling that I went through when we lost this rivalry game, when it means so much to everybody here in the state, like it sucks. It sucks being on the losing side. Absolutely. So you've got Mekhi Bernard, who already is a leader on this team. He is part of the group trying to indoctrinate all these players. And I use that word specifically because Kyle Whittingham used that word, and I think that is a fun part of this rivalry, is needing to teach these players about what it means. Because you're right, Alex, a lot of these guys coming in, transferring to the Utah program, coming from out of state, never having played in this game, they don't really know what this game means because they haven't played in it. So this is what I want you can hear it from Kyle Whittingham himself. This is what he had to say about kind of firing up these team members for this game.
We've had some indoctrination, I guess you could say, about the rivalry and history lessons. We have certainly made sure that the guys that have never participated in the game and or not from in-state, so they don't know anything about it, are fully versed in what it's all about.
I want to know. I want to be a part of that class.
Yeah, I'd love to be a fly on the wall there.
Yeah, I want to know what's going on in their study, right, in their history study of this rivalry. And I want to hear what they're saying. I want to hear the moments that they share, right? I think that would be super interesting to find out what exactly was shared to fire up these guys,
They bring in a historian. They put on, not like the PowerPoint, but what are those like overhead projectors called, like the old black ones? You know what I'm saying?
I know what you're talking about. I have no idea what they're called.
The first BYU-Utah rivalry game was played in 1896, and the Utes won 12-4, and he goes through every single game.
That'd be awesome.
That's what I'm imagining.
Exactly. I want to know. I would like to be a part of that history lesson, for sure.
Yeah. No, and I am curious to know like how the coaches are getting these guys fired up.
And it's important to get them fired up, like we were just talking about. And even like Whittingham mentioned, right? There's a lot of out-of-state guys who probably don't know much about this rivalry.
Yeah.
And again, in the world of the transfer portal, in the world of NIL, there's going to be guys who are coming into this team and probably don't know much, and so you have to light that fire and get these guys ready for what this game is.
So you heard from Whittingham just barely. Let's hear from Kalani Sitake's side about teaching his team about the importance of this game.
No, we're all about love and learn, and part of learning is educating them on what this game means. But also you want to keep it to them just doing their job. The new players that are here, since they stepped on campus, the fans themselves have already educated our players on how important this game is. But, for us as a coaching staff, we have to get back to the basics, and it doesn't really matter who's on the other side. There's a lot of things that we can do differently and do better as a team first before we can start really worrying about the drama and the emotions that go into the game. I think with a lot of passion is going to be a test of if you guys love football or not. Like even the newcomers to the team that don't know a lot about this rivalry, I think they care a lot about their fans. They care about teammates, and they know that this game's important. So just like every game's happened, and I like their approach so far. So we'll keep working how we've been the entire season.
There you go.
Different tones.
A little bit.
Yeah.
A little bit. I do think that the implications of this rivalry outside of the state are pretty important too. I think that's something that hasn't been talked about a lot, but you think of the Big 12 conference losing, some of their rivalries that they had when the bigger teams left the conference. They need a rivalry to step up and be the premier, big one.
Yeah. And if you remember back to, Big 12 media days, Brett Yormark kind of hinted that rivalries were going to be important. And this was one that they wanted to emphasize because you're right. The Red River rivalry, Oklahoma and Texas, huge rivalry.
And that's not only was it the biggest one in the Big 12, it's one of the biggest rivalries in the country. And
Absolutely.
Same with this BYU-Utah rivalry. And it's hard to feel that when it hasn't been played in 3 years again. But that's what Yormark wants is, to point to this game and saying this game is one of the most important games of the entire season for our conference every single year.
And I think that's perfect. Right, not only for Utah, not only for BYU, but for the Big 12.
For the Big 12,
you have to have marquee rivalries, right? You look at the Big 10, Ohio State, Michigan, right? You look at now the SEC is full of them.
Yeah,
there's so many in the SEC. Now the Big 12 needs to have a rivalry of that magnitude and of that size at a national level, and I think this rivalry is a perfect candidate for it. And like I said, they even mentioned it in Big 12 media days that that's what they eventually want for this rivalry and for the rivalries in this conference. And so, what better way to start today?
And it is interesting, playing this game today instead of the last game of the year. When it is, that's traditionally where college football teams play their rival, is that last week of the college football season. But that's why it was scheduled today, is because, everybody else is playing their big rivalry game the last week of the season. You know who's not playing any rivalry games today? Everybody. So I know it's a night game, and that kind of contradicts the whole reasoning for scheduling it today. But the idea was to put it on a weekend, where there are no other big national rivalry games going on, so we can get a bunch of eyeballs on this game, on the Big 12 conference, and help make them nationally relevant when it seems like the SEC and the Big 10 are kind of running college football right now. So the Big 12 needs this game to be competitive. They need this game to be nationally relevant.
Absolutely. And I think a lot of it will start tonight, right? If this game can live up to the drama, can live up to the hype, and live up to the excitement, it's a perfect step in the right direction.
Yeah, it's going to set the tone kind of for how, somebody across the country is going to think about the Big 12 conference. Somebody, I'm blanking here, but I'm trying to think of a state that doesn't have a Big 12 team. Somebody back east from New York or whatever,
sure.
Right? If they think of Big 12 football, the goal of this game is to make them think of, oh yeah, the Holy War. Like that's a big deal.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. Again, it does suck that it's canceled out. Just thinking of that New York fan, they're not going to be watching this game because it's at 10:30 New York time. But you never know. Maybe you'll get some sickos. The New York fan was maybe a bad example, but still, my point stands. I mean, the Big 12 wants this game
absolutely
to draw eyeballs from across the country, and I truthfully think that they're going to get that. I think especially if it's a close game that gives us another iconic moment, as we've seen traditionally with this game, I think there are going to be a lot of people talking about it.
Right, and like I said, this is a little bit of a dress rehearsal for what we're going to get for this rivalry in the future, and it starts today with the Big 12 hopefully getting a good game and hopefully elevating that rivalry just a little bit more on the national scheme of things to potentially set up even bigger rivalry games in the future.
Let's see it. I'm excited.
I'm excited too.
I'm excited. You know who else is excited? Everybody else here at Roland Hall. Come join us. It is a party. Again, we've got cornhole, we've got candy, we've got donuts, coffee. Come say hi to Alex and I as you get ready for your all-day tailgate party. We are going to be here all day leading up to the game. Later today, Lloyd told me specifically to mention this. El Matador, one of the best Mexican restaurants here in northern Utah. They're based out of Bountiful. They are going to be catering about 100 burritos later today. They're world-famous El Matador burritos. Again, there's going to be like 100 of them. I think that's going to be around 5 is what I was told. So it's an all-day party. We've got plenty of reasons for you to come out and join us. Again, we really want to meet you. Come stop by, say hi. Tell us your favorite rivalry game moments. We are here at Roland Hall on Guardsman Way, right down the road from Rice-Eccles Stadium. We got to take a break, but on the other side, it wouldn't be a Saturday show without technical fouls. So we'll get into that coming up next. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.
If you're coming from the street with dirty shoes on your feet, that's a technical foul. If you switch the radio to some modern music show, that's a technical foul. If you touch the thermostat,
you'll get hit with a bat.
'cause that's a technical foul.
You will feel my wrath.
That's a technical foul.
Personal foul, 69, offense. He was giving them the business.
A technical foul.
It's the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles, live from Roland Hall as we get ready for our all-day tailgate party leading into Utah versus BYU. Thanks for making us a part of your morning if you're on your way up to the tailgate, to the game, or if you're still sitting at home just prepping for what is going to be such a fun day. But, you know, if you have plans to come up here, come a little early. Come say hi. We've got candy. I might eat all of the peanut M&Ms, but everything else is up for grabs. We've got BYU and Utah-themed donuts. We've got coffee. We've got cornhole. And it's really not that cold. It
feels good.
Actually pretty nice out.
Feels good.
Sun is
I
out
was
and shining.
I was concerned.
Yeah, I was concerned too.
But we got out here. It feels good. Perfect football weather, I would say.
Last night I was scrambling. I, went and bought some little gloves. I bought some hand warmers. This morning I put on 2 pairs of pants. I'm wearing a hoodie, a big jacket, and I don't need any of it. I mean, it is really a nice day out.
We got a guy passing right now on a bike, and he is in full shorts.
The bike shorts, the short ones.
That's how cool. That's how warm it is.
Yeah, it's a beautiful day. So come join us here at Roland Hall. Anyways. If you're listening, you just heard the Technical Fouls intro, one of our favorite segments on the Saturday Show. We talk about some of the funnier and sillier, maybe goofy things that happen in the world of sports throughout the week. Alex, go ahead and start us off. What is your technical foul for the week?
Christian, I don't know if you've heard this story yet, but
I did hear about it. I saw that you put it in the doc, so I didn't read anything. I didn't want to spoil it. I want you to tell me about it.
All right, I got you. So obviously hoop season has begun. College basketball is back, and this weekend Auburn is traveling to take on Houston. But there was a little bit of an issue when they left because the plane had to turn around due to a quote-unquote in-flight altercation. The pilot reached back out to the tower, whatever you call it, and he said, hey, we have to come back because there is an altercation on the flight between 2 of the players. They get back to the airport. Police is waiting for them. It's a whole situation.
My gosh.
But it turns out it was just horseplay.
Is there a video of it?
There wasn't even. No, they haven't released any videos yet. There is recording of the flight of the pilot, who the pilot is being a little bit overdramatic. Says we have an altercation on board and we'd like to declare an emergency and land. We've got a bunch of basketball players fighting. The flight deck is secure. Front level is contained for the moment. We want police on the ground because we had 2 players that got into a physical altercation. And so the police show up. They think that, like, punches are thrown. They think this is a big deal. But it turns out it was just horseplay. There were just 2 guys messing around on the plane, and the pilot decided that they were fighting.
That's so funny. And, Scott Gerard, our guy Scotty G, he put out a funny tweet. He said, "So help me, I will turn this plane around right now." That's crazy. I've never heard of something like that.
Crazy. Yes, absolutely. I think what makes this the technical foul is the fact that the pilots were
so dramatic
about it, and making it seem like there was like a huge fist fight on the plane, but really, just guys being guys messing around horseplaying.
Looking up to see who they play. They played today at Houston,
yes.
So I'm assuming they got to Houston.
I believe so. Yeah.
After that, I wonder if those players are going to be disciplined at all. That's interesting.
Right.
Can't wait to see. Tip-off is at 7:30 for Auburn at Houston today. That's a really funny one. I've never heard of anything like that. I can't imagine how the coach felt. I mean, he was probably, number one, I don't know what side he was on, right? If he was on the side of his players or on the side of the pilots. Like, guys, get your act together right now. Or
right.
Maybe he was really mad at the pilot, saying, "Are you freaking kidding me?"
Like, are we serious? We're turning around. Right? We're emergency landing over this while we're trying to get to a game. So, again, it'll be interesting to see kind of what turns out, because there is a police. The police were there. Like, I'm sure reports had to be filed. So we'll see what comes out of it. But just in a fun situation in the air for the Auburn men's basketball team.
All right. It's time for my technical foul. I've got to be careful about how I word this.
I'm scared.
I don't want to cross any lines here. I'm just going to talk about a tweet that was put out earlier in the week.
Uh-oh.
From Pope Francis. He tweeted,
"Oh, no.
We cannot become #saints with a frown. We must have joyful hearts that remain open to hope." I love the tweet. I love the message. My technical foul just goes to the use of the #saints, because on Twitter or X, if you use #saints, it defaults to the New Orleans Saints,
right,
and brings up the fleur-de-lis logo. So you've got Pope Francis tweeting about becoming #Saints, and it looks like he's talking about the NFL team. And the New Orleans Saints, they quote tweeted it. They said, "Amen, #Saints." So I thought that was just a really funny interaction.
I love that the social media team kind of went into it and played leaned into it, played along with it a little bit, because it is funny to see a kind of
one of the biggest figures in the world.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, but a serious tweet.
Yeah,
and you just have the New Orleans Saint logo just slapped down in the middle of this.
Yeah,
tweet.
I do fully agree with the message. I do think we need to have joyful hearts that remain open to hope, especially today on rivalry week. Maybe he's thinking about this game, but #Saints is really funny. I wonder if he were to have an NFL team, if that's who he would cheer for.
I think so. It would make sense.
It would make sense.
Yeah.
I kind of had some fun with it. I quote tweeted it and said, "Let's try and get Pope Francis to use #Broncos country in a sentence." That's the hashtag that will get the Broncos logo to show up, but that might be pretty hard.
I would like to see the Pope just start tweeting all the NFL teams now.
I want to know his hot takes.
Yeah.
I want to know who he thinks is going to win the Super Bowl. I want to know what he thinks of all of the Taylor Swift stuff with the Chiefs.
He probably doesn't follow the NFL.
No, he probably doesn't follow any sports. He's pretty busy. He's a pretty busy guy. So, again, not a technical foul on the Pope per se, but more so just the silliness of his tweet showing the #Saints. That's really funny to me.
That's awesome, man.
Oh, man, we got to take a break. We'll get back into rivalry talk on the other side. And you know what, Alex, let's hear from Curtis Brown. That was an interview that we had earlier in the week on Jake and Ben, former BYU running back, one of the better careers in BYU history as a running back. But more importantly, he was part of the BYU team that came in and beat Utah here in Salt Lake City in 2006. That was the last time the Cougars beat Utah at Rice-Eccles Stadium. So we're going to hear that interview next. Again, we are here at Roland Hall, live on location. We're having an all-day tailgate party. We're right down the road from Rice-Eccles Stadium. So if you're listening to us on your way up here, come grab a donut, come grab some candy, stop by, say hi to me and Alex. Tell us your favorite rivalry moments from what you can remember throughout this history, because this is such a fun and exciting day. So we want to see you. Come say hi to us. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. Welcome back to the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza, joined by Alex Napoles, live from Roland Hall on Guardsman Way right now, right down the road from Rice-Eccles Stadium. We are here for the all-day tailgate party. So if you're on your way up here, or if you are up here already, come say hi. We've got a ton of candy, cornhole, donuts, coffee, all the goods.
Come play cornhole with Stone.
Yeah. Stone is really good. I'd imagine Stone's really good at cornhole.
Or Dallin. Dallin seems like he'd be really good at cornhole, too.
Dallin, we got to tell this story off air just barely in the break. Dallin came up and he was taking a video of this setup. Alex and I thought it was a picture,
yes.
So we were like sitting here smiling, frozen for a video. Like we didn't move at all.
It's that awkward one where it's like, oh, you think it's a picture, and then, oh, psych, it's a video.
We've had a few fans trickle by already, so please come stop by, say hi to us. We'd love to meet you. I'd love to hear some of your favorite memories of these rivalry games. But let's get back into it, Alex. I want to replay this interview. And, of course, Rivalry Week, we had so many interviews all throughout the week. You can go find them on the podcast page at KSL Sports. I mean, players that are responsible for some of the most iconic moments of this amazing rivalry game. I mean, we had Max Hall, John Beck, Johnny Harleen, Stevenson Sylvester, Christian Cox. Tons of former players from both sides joined the zone throughout the week, and a ton of content to go help you get ready for this game. But one interview in particular that I want to replay was Curtis Brown. He finished his career as the leading rusher in BYU history, over 3,000 rushing yards for the Cougs. But more importantly, for today, Alex, he was part of the BYU team that came up here to Salt Lake City and beat Utah in 2006. The Cougs won 33-31. That's the last time BYU has won here in Salt Lake City. So this is what Curtis Brown had to say when he joined Jake and Ben earlier this week, talking about playing at Rice-Eccles Stadium, talking about beating that Utah team. Here's Curtis Brown.
Ben, let's get out to the zone phone. Our next guest ran the ball for over 3,000 yards at BYU. He had over 1,000 yards receiving. And if I do my math correctly, had somewhere in the neighborhood of 37 touchdowns for the Cougs. No big deal. Joining us now, legend running back Curtis Brown. What's going on, Curtis?
Not much. How are you guys doing today?
We're doing terrific. Hey, I've got to imagine as a BYU alum, and I would imagine still a BYU fan, this is an exciting week, and this hasn't always been an easy week for BYU fans going into the rivalry week.
You know, it's definitely been exciting as a fan, as an alumni, to see the Cougs playing as well as they're playing. No, it's an exciting weekend, but it's a weekend that we should also be optimistic. We should be confident. We're doing everything right, and that's the thing is we're not taking any. The players are not taking any days for granted, any games for granted. They're playing 4 quarters of football. They're executing on all aspects of the game, and so I think that's the most important thing. I think in the past there have been times where either we're both doing well or we're both struggling, or there's kind of something going on. But I think this year we got to play with pride and confidence.
Curtis, I'm 1,000 years old. I've been doing this for a long time. Let me take you back to a take that I had in 2005 about BYU football. The difference between Gary Croton and Bronco Mendenhall is they gave Curtis Brown the ball more. That's right. Tell me about the difference between playing for those two coaches, because that was a really interesting time in the history of BYU football.
Well, I will tell you, yeah, it was definitely one of those things where I was, with the coaching change, when we knew we were getting Coach and I coming from Texas Tech, you always worry about, where do I stand on the team? And during that time, we had a number of running backs in the rotation, and so just trying to figure out where do I fit in. And I remember Coach Mendenhall invited me into his office to have kind of a one-on-one, and essentially to sum up that conversation, it was this offense is going to score a lot of points, and we're going to gain a lot of yards, and we're going to be successful. But there was no individual talking about me in regards to rushing or receiving the ball. And that's when it really hit me that if I just focus on the team and doing everything else I can within my power to be the best contributor to the team, then things will work out. And I think initially we wanted to go probably more pass game with our receivers, more single back, similar to what Texas Tech ran. But I think when you started to see the production out of our running backs, it became very clear to the coaching staff that there was a disadvantage when you put our running backs against opponents' linebackers. And so I'm just grateful for Coach and I and his faith in us as a group and, allowing us to demonstrate our talents.
Curtis, correct me if I'm wrong. You won one game against Utah in your career?
It's the only game that matters, right?
But it was at Rice Eccles, right? You went on the road and you did get a victory. What's it like playing on the road in this rivalry like BYU is facing this weekend, and what did it mean to win there?
If I'm being completely honest, it sucks to play there. I wish I could. It's a feisty, and I love it. I mean, I think that every college team needs that big rivalry game that just really just gets you that blood flowing. Just because from the moment you enter that stadium, there's nothing but hate for us. And so I think that kind of having that experience as a freshman, I really didn't even know what to expect my freshman year. I was just kind of like, hey, I'm on the team. It's cool. We were both doing poorly as programs. My sophomore year, my redshirt sophomore year, when they went to one of their first BCS bowls with Alex Smith. That left a very, very, very sour taste in my mouth. And I can tell you, I can still remember it. But I would say it's one of those when you do taste that victory, that success. Man, it's like nothing else. So winning on their field. Having that crowd go from being so loud to just mute, it was incredible.
Listen, you say you didn't like playing there, Curtis. Well, listen, we just had Casey Evans on in the last segment, former Ute who played around the same times. He didn't like playing there either. I remember that turf. It was like sandpaper laid on top of cement? I mean, the fact that you have an arm left after playing in that stadium, it was really brutal.
It was. I mean, unfortunately, I'll be honest. I mean, they with the exception maybe of my junior year, they were always good at stopping the run. And so it was almost like, maybe 30, 40 yards rushing, if I'm looking back and being honest, like for myself personally. So it was one of those things where, unfortunately, didn't pick up too much yardage on the ground, caught a few passes and things like that, get pushed out of bounds or whatnot. But I think it was also cold wintertime. I'm not one who's opposed to wearing the sleeves and things like that. I'm not trying to be too much of a tough guy. If I need to stay warm, I'm throwing on some sleeves. So didn't have to deal with the turf burn too much.
So what individual moment stands out the most for you from your games playing, either a win, the win or the losses?
It would definitely be on that final play, and it wasn't so much of the taste of victory. It was just a humbling experience because I know that week I'm not when it comes to that team and when it comes to BYU, I'm very confident. And that's the thing is I talked a lot of crap leading up to that week because we were doing so well. They weren't doing well. And it was a dogfight. And I remember thinking as we got the ball back with minute 17 kickoff and we're going to go drive it down, I'm thinking to myself, man, this media is going to roast me for all the comments I made and this and that. And we got down to their red zone, and I'm just sitting there saying, man, you know, if there's a miracle, it would be nice for it to happen right now. And to be honest, when that play happened, I heard the roaring from the crowd once the ball was thrown, and I honestly thought it was Utah fans celebrating the win. And it wasn't until I saw Brett Cooper, one of my receivers, run across the middle of the field and chuck his helmet 50 yards up in the air that I realized that we actually won. And at that point, it was one of those things where it's just like, wow, this is what it's all about. This is what it's, you know, this is what it's for. And it was just a great feeling. And, yeah, it wasn't a dominating victory like I had kind of hoped for, but it was a victory. And at the end of the day, it was the sweetest feeling in the world.
So, Curtis, as you can imagine, we spend probably way too much time talking about quarterbacks when we're talking about college football. But now, of course, they are an important position, and quarterback development is a big topic. You know, Utah trying to develop some young quarterbacks. Jake Retzloff obviously has improved greatly from last year. And you were on the same team as John Beck for his whole journey. And I think it's an underrated story. You know, he played early, didn't particularly have success. You mentioned that great 04 Utah team that they went up against. You know, that season was a struggle. And by the time he left in 06, he was been a second-round pick, I think?
Yeah, second round to Miami.
Yeah, so tell us about his development. What made him special?
I think the thing that makes John special now, back then, was just his willingness to just take feedback, take criticism, and have a desire to get better. I think sometimes as quarterbacks, it's tough because you kind of feel like you have to always just be confident, like you know what you're doing. You have to have an answer for everything. But the one thing that John was great about was he was great about opening the lines of communication. He was great about when I would get frustrated. I remember prior to our senior year, we were doing some, routes and things like that, and I went off because I've been out there for 20 minutes, and all we had thrown the ball was to wide receivers, and a running back was sitting there swinging the ball, and I'm like, man, did you guys forget about us? And I went off, and Reno Mahe was out there, and he actually had to pull me away and be like, dude, calm down. That's your quarterback. You don't ever talk to your quarterback that way. I mean, not that I was being crazy. I was frustrated. But the thing is John came up to me, and he explained what was going on, and he said, hey, man, trust me, I have faith in you. And so it was that moment where I was like, you know what? This guy truly loves each and every one of us. He loves this team. He loves this program. And he was always just open with us about what he was struggling with offensively, what he needed us to do better. And so that's the thing I think any great quarterback is they have that relationship where there's that line of communication that's always open. And regardless of how heated things may get it during practices or in the off season, there's a mutual respect and love for one another.
When did you know that what the Utah-BYU rivalry was really all about? Like, did you have to play in the game first? Did you know the moment you kind of get to town and you see colors and all that sort of thing? Like, when did it hit you that this is such a special game?
Oh, my redshirt sophomore year. My freshman year, like I said, freshman year, I think we went 5-7. We were trash. And the second year I redshirted, it ended in like a 3-0 tie or a 3-0 win for Utah at our house. It was cold. And I was sitting in the stands.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this was the most boring game ever. But my redshirt sophomore year, because it was a dogfight up until halftime. And there was all this talk about if they beat us, they're going to a BCS Bowl and this and that and whatever. I think we had a turnover right before half that can't remember whether we got the turnover, we gave the turnover. One of those things happened, but I just remember getting super hyped during halftime, just pissed off, just yelling like, dude, we got this. And then they came and smacked us around in the second half, and it was very humbling. But leading up to that game, there was a lot of trash talk. There was information and stuff talked about family and things like that I'm like, wow, is that how we're going to play it? And then the moment stepped on, it was people in the stands saying things and talking about things that you wouldn't think they knew about, or family and this and that, trying to get under your skin. And yeah, it got under our skin, but I think that's what kind of set the tone. And I think that's why when my senior year, I was like, you know what? I'm going out with a bang. So I already know what to expect. I already know the trash talk that's going to be talked about, what they're going to say, and you just couldn't let it faze me.
Well, Curtis, I was talking to Ben earlier and said that you would be on from all the players that I covered, you would be on the all-interview team because you were really good even as a young man. And you know what? You're still really good at it, and we appreciate you coming on and giving us your perspective.
Oh, no, for sure. I appreciate you guys having me. I mean, I imagine it's only like 10% of your listeners probably even know who I am by this time. It just feels so old, but I appreciate it.
Heck no, you're a legend, Curtis. Absolute legend around here. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
There you go. Curtis Brown, former BYU running back, over 3,000 total rushing yards in his career. He was part of the last BYU team to come up to Rice-Eccles Stadium and beat Utah here in Salt Lake. In that game, 12 carries for 45 yards, as well as 4 catches for 31 yards. So not a stellar stat line, but the Cougs got the win, Alex, and that's all that matters. BYU won 33-31 on that day, all the way back in 2006.
It was a long time ago.
What a good interview. I mean, the highlight, obviously, Ben asked him what it's like to come and play at Rice-Eccles Stadium, and he said, I'm going to be honest with you, it sucks. They hate us. And I think that's true.
Again, just to add to the fire of the rivalry, right? You got the fan bases chirping at you all game long, and then in this case, in that 2006 case, imagine just how amazing that a win like that would feel. And I'm sure that's what BYU and Retzlaff and company are looking forward to do tonight.
Yeah, he said it sucks to play up here at Rice-Eccles Stadium, but getting the win here on the road for BYU would feel so good for them. So huge thanks to Curtis Brown and all the other guests we had on to talk Rivalry Week throughout the week. Again, if you missed any of them, go check out the KSL Sports podcast page. We had them on all of our daily shows, tons of former BYU and Utah players, some of the players responsible for some of the biggest moments in this rivalry's history. We had Johnny Harleen, John Beck, Max Hall, Zane Beatles, Curtis Brown, Stevenson Sylvester, Christian Cox, Coach Sataki even joined DJ and PK earlier in the week. So go check out all of our content and get yourself ready for this game. Big game tonight here at Rice-Eccles Stadium. What do you think? Take a break?
Yeah, let's hit a break.
Let's hit a break. We are here at Roland Hall on Guardsman Way, down the road from Rice-Eccles Stadium, here at the all-day tailgate party leading up to kickoff. We're going to be leading up to the combined Ute and Cougar pregame show. That's going to be at 6, and we're here all day until then. Tons of candy out right now, coffee, BYU and Utah-themed donuts coming up later today. El Matador is going to be here. They're going to have 100 Hans and Scotty burritos to hand out. That's going to be, what do you say, Dallin, around 5? 5:30-ish, 5:30. Come get yourself a Hans and Scotty burrito. It's a limited edition special dish that they cooked up for those guys, and 100 of them. That's actually super generous for them to make that many, because I know those burritos are monstrous.
Absolutely.
I've seen a few pictures of them on Twitter, and they're a sight to see. So
come try them.
Come see us. We're going to be here all day. Again, we're at Roland Hall on Guardsman Way, right down the road from Rice-Eccles Stadium. Going to hit a break on the other side. We'll talk a little 5 minutes of. Got to talk about everything else going on that's relevant. Utah Hockey Club, Utah Jazz. We'll talk a little more rivalry. That's coming up next. This is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. There we go, Sean. I like that song. Saturday. It is the Saturday Show, of course.
Have you been playing Saturday-themed music, Sean?
Yeah. Kind of hacky, but, you know.
I like it. It sucks that it took us this long to realize.
We're almost at the end of the show, and we just barely realized.
Oh, man. Great job, Sean. Great job. It is the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. I'm Christian Esparza, Alex Napoles with me. We are here live from the all-day tailgate party at Roland Hall, right down the road from Rice-Eccles Stadium. Just getting ready for the big game tonight. Utah is set to host BYU later today. What is the official kickoff time? I know it's never right. It says 8:15. It's probably going to be closer to 8:30, I'm guessing. What do you think?
Hopefully 8:20.
Yeah.
For the sake of the people.
That's one thing I've noticed about sports lately. I mean, the tip-off and kickoff times are never correct. They always get slid back a little bit, and it's kind of frustrating.
It's those TV times, man.
Those TV slots.
Oh, yeah.
But regardless, the game is tonight at some time around 8:15-ish.
We'll say, and this has been a big point of emphasis coming from the Utah players and the Utah athletics, be early. Be in your seats. If you got tickets, doesn't matter if you're on the Utah side, doesn't matter if you're on the BYU side, get here early, be in your seats ahead of kickoff, and cheer on your side.
And dress warm. We don't want anybody
absolutely
getting sick or getting hypothermia or whatever. It's nice right now because the sun is out, but
yes.
the sun will be long gone.
There will be
by
no
the time
sun.
This game kicks off. It will be cold tonight. So in case you weren't planning on it, please dress warm if you come to this game. We don't want to have any accidents, I guess. Right?
Yes. Everybody be safe.
All right, Alex, let's get into 5 minutes of. Obviously, we've got the rivalry game, the biggest topic by far for today's show. We've got a couple things going on today at the station. Utah Jazz are coming up. They're playing the Spurs. They have an early afternoon tip, 3 p.m. tip-off. 2 p.m. pregame here on the Zone. Jazz are struggling, 1-7, worst record in the NBA. They're coming off a loss, 123-100 to the Bucks. They are staying on the road again at the Spurs today before they return home and play the Suns on Tuesday.
I think that game against the Bucks was kind of unfortunate for the Jazz. You come out and you have a good shooting half in the first half.
Yeah.
And then you just kind of let the game get away from you in the third quarter. And that's a lot of credit, too, to the Bucks. Giannis and Dame on the court together were phenomenal. But at the same time, the Jazz kind of lost their shooting touch in that third quarter, let the game get away from them. And like you mentioned, they're now sitting at 1-7. The worst league, I believe, tied with the 76ers for the worst record in the NBA.
Something like that, yeah. And the 76ers, by the way, they owe their first-round pick to the Thunder. It is top 6 protected. Or no, excuse me. It's the Clippers that the Thunder pick. Somebody, I forgot who owns the 76ers pick. But it is a top 6 protected pick. Tyrese Maxey, one of their better players, is projected to be out with an injury for an extended period of time. So it's going to be interesting to see if the 76ers go with a quote-unquote youth movement and try to hold on to that pick since it's top 6 protected, or if they're going to want to try and win down the stretch and end up conveying it, because they do, at the end of the day, have Joel Embiid and Paul George. So they're going to want to try and win games, I think. But that is kind of an interesting storyline, having a top 6 protected pick in such a loaded draft class.
Absolutely. There's plenty of talent. And like we mentioned earlier, the college hoops season has just started, and so we'll see who continues to rise and emerge. There's a lot of fun talent to keep an eye on this year.
Yegor Demine, BYU standout. He's played a couple of games for the Cougars so far. 5-star freshman from, is it Russia?
Yes.
Yeah, he's looked phenomenal
good.
over
He's
the first
looked
few
really
games.
good.
And it's not just, local fans that are talking about it on social media, but we're starting to see, some of these guys that get into the NBA scouting stuff talking about how good this dude looks. And it's only been 2 games, and it hasn't been against the highest level of competition, but people are talking about him as a top 10 pick and potentially moving into the top 8 or 6 or 5. Maybe there's a chance he ends up with the Utah Jazz.
Could be possible, absolutely, especially if he continues the trajectory that he's on right now, because he's off to a very hot start for BYU.
So that will be an interesting thing to watch, I guess, for the Cougs, and seeing how well they perform. Of course, they're a big storyline. We've got a fan, a passionate fan.
Did we just get heckled?
I wouldn't think so. I think he's cheering us on.
Oh, okay, there we go.
I don't know. A passionate Ute fan with some flags hanging out of his truck, driving by and yelling at us. Come say hi. We're at Roland Hall. But again, yeah, BYU, big storyline in college basketball with all their NIL funding. They've got Cannon Catchings, Igor Demine, some really big names playing for them this season. So we'll see how BYU continues to do. Also coming up today, we're going to have USU basketball and football. Basketball plays at 2 p.m. versus Charlotte. They're at home at the Spectrum. Football is playing tonight, 8:30 kickoff at Washington State. Basketball was fun the other night. I produced their first game of the season. They got the big win at home. Hopefully the basketball team will continue to roll. The football team, not so fun.
Good chance here for them to kind of turn things around, though.
Maybe. Washington State is really good.
They are very good. And they're a top 25 team at the moment. And so it's going to be, I do believe it'll be a difficult matchup, but if Utah State can carry a little bit of that momentum they had against Wyoming, carry it into this one, and potentially walk away with a big upset win over the number 21, sets you up nicely for what's to come towards the end of the season, right? I think for Utah State, you just have to focus, similarly to Utah, you just kind of have to focus on ending the season on a positive note. Got to take something away from the season.
Couple of guys can dream, right?
Yeah.
Also today on the station, we've got Utah Hockey Club at the Nashville Predators. That's a 6 p.m. puck drop, 5 p.m. pregame. Hockey Club coming off a big 4-2 win at the St. Louis Blues. Dylan Gunther scored the go-ahead goal. And then at the end of the game, I'm spacing who it was, but there was an empty netter goal. And that's those are fun goals for me to see because it was kind of like a full court shot in basketball, right? It was McBain, by the way. And it was probably 3/4 of the ice, I guess, and he kind of just popped it up into the empty net. And to me, seeing the empty net goals, it's kind of like the victory formation in football. Like, you see it happen and you know the game is over. And so it's cool on the stat sheet to see the 4-2 victory. But it was really more so 3-2 until that empty netter goal. But regardless, the Utah Hockey Club getting back into the win column. After a loss at the Vegas Golden Knights, it was an overtime loss. But it's still a great game regardless. And then, again, today they are at Nashville.
I will say it has been really fun becoming fans of this hockey club. It has been... I barely knew anything about this sport prior to the team being announced coming over to Utah, so it's been fun learning. It's been fun getting used to what hockey is, and I hope with that, again, we're hoping for a playoff spot for this Utah Hockey Club team, but we'll just continue to learn and continue to fall in love with hockey.
You're right. It has been really fun learning this new sport because it is new to everybody. But
absolutely.
It's been a blast getting to know this team and getting to know the sport. So, resetting the scene here, though, today, Alex, Utah BYU, big game. This game has not been played in 3 years. 2021 was the last time these two teams met. It was BYU that came away with the victory that was 26-17. Kind of an upset win, and Utah had won the previous 9 games before that. So, really just on top of it being, a rivalry game, a regional rivalry, it's a big deal because this game has not been played in so long because of the in-season storylines with BYU looking phenomenal on the season and then Utah struggling. They've lost 4 games in a row. We don't know who the quarterback is going to be tonight. We're going to see if it's Brandon Rose or Isaac Wilson. But even with all that, as you mentioned throughout the show, as we've been saying throughout the week, you put all that to the side with these rivalry games. You never know what could happen. So we'll see how it goes.
Toss it out. I mean, if you think back to that 21 game, I think there was, from what I can remember, there was a lot of confidence that Utah were going to get win number 10.
Yeah.
They were going to...
They wanted to get 10 wins in a row. That's kind of a milestone, right, in the rivalry.
Absolutely. And... So for BYU to come out and get the win, end the streak, and kind of put a damper on Utah wanting to get to number 10, it was huge. And it was huge for BYU to get that win. And the Utah Utes, who ended up having to turn around their season with Cam Rising coming in the next game against San Diego. San Diego. And so I think that game was a little bit of a turning point for Utah. Obviously, you take the loss, and then the next game you kind of are losing on the road again, and then you kind of have to turn to Cam Rising, and then we know what happened from there. For BYU, now they're kind of in a situation where they are the favorites for the Big 12. They are in prime position at this point to be Big 12 champions. And for obviously the season for Utah hasn't gone the way that they wanted to. And so what would it mean for this Utah team to be spoiler to BYU's perfect season?
It would be huge. It really, really would, because that's really all the Utes can do at this point. Besides that and making a bowl game, those are really the only two big accomplishments that Utah can do given their record and given how their season has gone up to this point. They want to be the bad guy today. They want to come in and ruin what has been an undefeated season so far for BYU. And I'm sure that is kind of an inspiration point that the coaching staff and the leaders on this team have brought up. Like, hey, let's go in and ruin these guys this season. Because everybody's talking about this is one of the best BYU seasons in a long time. In a very, very long time.
Yeah.
And
probably, I think their best start maybe ever.
One of their best starts ever, for sure. So how sweet would it be to just ruin that? Even if BYU goes on to win the Big 12 championship and play in the college football playoff, maybe that still happens. But just to have that in the back of their mind and Utah being able to say, like, hey, we still beat you that year, right?
Exactly. If BYU goes on to win the Big 12 and represent the Big 12 in the college football playoff, Utah fans will never let them live that down.
And so really that's kind of all they can hope for at this point.
And I feel like Utah does a really good job of playing in this underdog role, playing in kind of with a chip on their shoulder.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's something also that's been lacking this season for Utah.
And that's something that, right, they were picked to win the Big 12 in the preseason, so you can't really play with the chip on your shoulder at that point. Now coming in, I mean, I know they're the home team, but they're the home underdog.
They are.
And they're the ones on the 4-game losing streak. They're the ones with uncertainty everywhere. So you're right that they are back to having that underdog mentality that Kyle Whittingham loves to play with, and he loves to instill in this team. And we've seen them do so many great things with that mentality. Talking about playing spoiler, I knew we had some sound to play. Karene Reed, defensive end for the Utes, part of this great Utah defense. He talked about playing spoiler for BYU and what that would mean.
It's really exciting. I think obviously I would prefer to have that record, but to be on that side where you can ruin their season and kind of have that nothing to lose edge, hungry mentality it's dangerous. It's dangerous.
It's dangerous.
It is dangerous. Like I said earlier in the show, everybody knows the wounded dog is an animal you don't want to mess with. And that's Utah right now. So the hope is that they come out, bearing their fangs, I guess.
You got to love that mentality, though, from Reed. And I'm sure the defense all feels the same. I'm sure this whole team probably feels the same. You got to love that mentality heading into this game. Again, you at this point, you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
You have absolutely nothing to lose. Go for it. Go out there. Ball out. Be spoiler.
Be spoiler. And protect your house, right? Because this is Rice-Eccles Stadium. This is your home field. You don't want BYU to stack back-to-back wins against you. So you have a lot of reasons to win this game. But ultimately, just celebrate bringing the rivalry back. Celebrate playing this game for the first time, being members of the same conference, the Big 12. Celebrate this being the premier rivalry of the Big 12 conference. So everybody should be looking forward to this game, regardless of if it's an 8:30 kickoff or not. And that does suck that we can't get a ton of national eyes because of the kickoff time, but that's what you get when the Utes have struggled the way they have, and BYU's never going to get the national respect that they deserve. But regardless, I mean, we know that records don't matter. What's happened up to this point in the season does not matter.
Toss it out the window.
Odds are this is going to be a great game, as it traditionally is.
Absolutely. That's what you can hope. That's all you can hope for. From a neutral perspective, that's all you can hope for. These two sides just go out, battle it, as they always have, and continue to build this rivalry.
Let's take a break, one more break, Alex, and then we will wrap this show up on the other side. This is the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone. It's the Saturday Show 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone, wrapping things up as we get ready for this big game. Alex, tonight, 8:15, Utah is hosting BYU. We are here live from Roland Hall on Guardsman Way. We had so many people stop by, get candy, get coffee, get donuts, so... Still got tons of stuff, though. Come meet us. Come say hi. Come celebrate.
Still got a whole bunch of stuff, and we'll be here all day giving away prizes, giving away candy, giving away foods. So
tons of games, too.
Yeah,
cornhole.
Come play games. Come join the fun.
It is an all-day tailgate party. And, yeah, we're going to be here, again, leading up to we're going to have the combined Ute and Cougar pregame show with Lloyd Cole, Christian Cox, Alex Keary, and Jake Hatch. That's going to be extended, too. Normally it's 1 hour. It's going to be a 2-hour pregame show. They're going live at 6. And at 5:30, we're going to have El Matador here giving out 100 of their Hanson Scotty burritos. So we got festivities all day. It's a big game. Can't wait to see how this game goes. Has not been played in 3 years. We got to do this, Alex. We got to talk about score predictions for this game. I can go first if you need some time to think.
Yeah, go for it. I'll let you take this for the first swing on this.
Well, obviously, the key is, right, Utah needs to put up points, which they have not done this season. And it's not like we're going to need Utah it's not like we're going to need to see them put up 30 to win because their defense is so good. I do think Utah will need to score at least 24 points if they want to win.
Okay.
I don't think they have any chance at winning if they score less than 24 points, and I don't think that they will score 24 points. With the uncertainty at quarterback, we don't know if it's going to be Isaac Wilson or Brandon Rose who would be making his first start. I think that Utah is going to score, I'm going to say 16 points. I think they're going to hold the Cougs to 24. So I'm predicting a 24-16 BYU victory here at Rice-Eccles Stadium.
Okay. I like that. I think for me, the lucky number, the sweet number, first one to 20 wins this game. Obviously, because Utah haven't been able to score too much this year, BYU scores a lot, and they score in bunches.
Yeah.
First one to 20 for me wins this game. I think I'm leaning blue. I'm leaning BYU in this one. I'm going to go with We'll go 28-17.
Okay. Real similar there. It is worth noting BYU has not been held under 20 points since their Week 2 game at SMU, where they won 18-15. So this is an offense that can score. We're going to see if Utah's defense can slow them down. Having a bye week beforehand to help both teams prep, I think, is a big thing. I think I kind of like that. I know some people didn't, but it gives you extra time to build up for this rivalry, for the fans to build excitement, and for the teams to just prep.
Well, and at the end of the day, you have Kyle Whittingham who's coming out and mentioning that he has a plan, that they have a roadmap to what they want to do, and so we'll see what exactly that plan is tonight when we come out and they take the first snap.
You think we'll see both quarterbacks, or do you think we'll just see whoever they decide to roll with?
I think that would probably depend on the way the game goes. I believe if the plan is working the way that Kyle Whittingham and the coaching staff want it to work, we'll probably just see the one.
Okay.
But obviously, if they need some kind of spark, if things aren't going their way, it wouldn't surprise me to have a little switcheroo like they did against Houston.
That would be disastrous. I think that would be worst-case scenario for the Utes. We mentioned it earlier in the show. I think it sounds like we both think Brandon Rose is going to be starting for the Utes tonight. We don't have any info, obviously, but that's kind of just, if you're going to have a quarterback battle, it's probably to make a change, right? So,
# Water the Rose.
That is what Alex is rolling with. I don't know if I want to say that. It sounds a little silly, but we will see, again, Utah versus BYU coming up tonight, 8:15. Join us all day here on The Zone. This has been the Saturday Show, 97.5, the KSL Sports Zone.